Hello there. Welcome back to Gooner Gathering. Feels like I'm on a tropical island here. I'm so hot this evening. It's very hot and humid here in sunny Essex. But we are here today, Goonerly Meads here, joined by Spencer. How are you, my friend? And we are here for Desert Island Kickabout.
I am doing well. It is about, I say, 84 degrees. I don't know what that calculates to Celsius for you guys, but it is a decent day outside weather-wise.
Fair enough. Do you know what? On the first day of my holiday from work, I actually stepped out of the flat and it just started raining on me. But it's so humid. We're threatening thunderstorms and everything over here. So, it's all fun and games. Before I get into the chat and everything, I will address Sam Wilson in the chat. Hello, mate.
What's going on,
I believe
Sam?
he's going to be streaming with you later on, potentially.
Yeah, so we're in the same time zone currently. We did something Friday night discussing some transfers, and we talked yesterday and there was no news. And then this morning I woke up and news galore or rumors.
Rumors and innuendo, as my broadcast colleague Posh Bertie would say. We'll get into it. We'll get into a little bit of the news if you like. I do hear a lot of stories. I've heard a lot of stories today of linking Thomas Partey about moving away of the club. What are your thoughts on us potentially losing Thomas Partey?
It's not something I would want us to do to move on from him. I know for me right now, I know because I've talked to people about this because Xhaka, like a lot of people want to move on. I, at this stage, almost feel like it's time to just add that 11th through 18th players, right? And keep Xhaka on. But I know it's not going to work. But the reality is if Rice comes in, that adds strength. But then if we lose Partey, we kind of put ourselves back in that same boat again I view Rice coming in as an 8 and being more offensive than I do him being the holding midfielder, even though he can play both. I would love to have Partey and Rice on the field at the same time. I just think we have to win that middle of the park. If you watch the Man City games, and basically we lost the midfield there, and it almost felt like we needed a 12th player to compete with Man City. Yeah. It's interesting. Lavia is another one we're linked to. I like him. But I think that would be a downgrade, especially if we lose Partey. We'd be upgrading with Rice, but losing. So I don't know if we truly gain anything.
I think with Latvia, I see a lot of potential in that young man. Obviously, Partey's at the other end of the age scale. I do see some advantages of potentially Partey leaving. In terms of his form, for example, in the last sort of month of the season, it really went down. He does have a couple of injury worries for me. But it will be a shame to lose a player like that quality. But if they were to raise a few funds, maybe to fund a few other deals, maybe that's the thinking. I think there may be more behind this deal than maybe seems, maybe more than you actually think about. Because, the transfer window is a very odd thing. And, the old dominoes effect, if you like. One will go down, which means something else will happen, then another. And I'm very interested to see how this one plays out. It'll be it's one that's a little bit strange.
So the thing that also to think about is he came into the club. We were probably playing Europa League around that time. Now we're in the Champions League. He may be looking for more money. So this is also a ploy to, hey, I'm looking to move elsewhere. Give me a new contract, Arsenal. So this might just be an agent making up a rumor to Fabrizio Romano, because that's where I saw it first. And hey, we just want more money to stay. Yeah, that might be what it is. Because these guys are going to want raises going in the Champions League next year. So.
And that you make a really good point about sort of putting rumors and stuff out, and perhaps looking at moves away. There's a bit of a talk about the money in Saudi Arabia that comes up in quite a lot of the our chats just of late on the channel, and you see the likes of the chap Ruben Neves from Wolves. Looks like he might be heading out to going up that way. Obviously, you've got the likes of Ronaldo up that way now. And it's a game that's trying to evolve and trying to get the publicity. Perhaps that could happen. and if they're willing to put a real serious kind of bid in, maybe this is just my point of view. Maybe it's worth looking at, and then perhaps reinvesting that money somewhere else in the squad.
I agree, because I think the only leagues that truly have money right now to go make crazy purchases are the Premier League and the Saudis. I mean, they always hear about the financial health of Barcelona. Real Madrid, of course, just bought Jude Bellingham, but we don't really hear major rumors of other countries really going in to swoop players in for 40, 50, 60 million dollars. And I think that's really what's kind of the game has changed ever since the COVID years. That I think a lot of these clubs across Europe, and this even applies even to the States itself, that they're not healthy enough to take on, massive transfer fees minus the wages, bringing that on. So now the club's now spending $40 million to buy a player and $20 million a season to keep them. And the Premier League's becoming what I call the wealth of. It's the SEC. College football. We have one conference here that's the strongest. It's the SEC, and the Premier League is easily becoming that based on the wealth it's invested in it. So it is interesting to see what the next couple of years brings. But yeah, they could be looking to just raise funds, and he could be looking to get another contract. It's an interesting one. That's I would see what happens, because you don't want to sell Thomas Partey to a Premier League club. Like, you can't do that.
No. I wouldn't have thought that had happened. But I've seen stranger things happen, and I've seen stranger stories being linked with us. And I'd love to know, before we get into the Desert Island Kickabout stuff, there's two other things I really want to cover with you. We've got Kai Havertz, the Chelsea player, who this deal seems like it's a little bit, certainly feels to me like it's a little bit further along than maybe some of the other deals that we might have thought might be happening. Obviously, the Declan Rice one, I think it's widely publicised that will happen. I would imagine that will probably happen next week after the internationals, because obviously we're talking about competitive internationals at the moment, obviously featured on Friday night. But this Kai Havertz one is a bit of a weird one, attacking German player, like midfielder stroke striker, 6'4", 24 years old. What are your thoughts on Arsenal going for him?
Apparently. Oh my God, I'm getting roasted in the comments for this one. I'm actually a little bit more excited about him than I probably should be. Because I go back to the Bayer Leverkusen player that was really good. When he played at Chelsea. The thing I'm not thrilled about is the price tag attached. That's what I'm not thrilled about. If you're getting me Kai Havertz for $20 to $30 million pounds, sign me up. I think Arteta probably views him because of his versatility. He can play multiple positions, but again, he's not a master of any position. So he's a jack of all trades, but a master of none. So it has to be the right price. I think the anger I saw on Twitter when we first were linked to him is because of the Rice deal not being done. But if you had Declan Rice already signed,
because he's Chelsea as well,
and that plays into it well. We have had some stinkers come from Chelsea, that is for certain. But this kid's young. I'd be interested in getting him. And to be fair, I would love to take Mason Mount and Kai Havertz so I could get them both.
Oh, that's interesting. Mount is highly expected to join Man United, isn't he? After these internationals. Do you know what? For a start of a transfer window, if we can get the Rice one over the line, we can get the Havertz one over the line. I think that's a good start, personally. And you alluded to his time at Leverkusen. I've done a little bit looking back at that time, and I definitely think there's a player in there. I really do. And of course, Champions League winner, is various other European honours over at Chelsea, making big parts to play in them games, including assists.
I think he's got 13 international goals for Germany as well.
Yeah. So my kind of feeling is, if Arteta thinks that that's a piece of the puzzle that might improve us, do you know what? I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Because you've got to bear in mind as well, there's sort of question, is this an Edu signing? Is it an Arteta signing? Well, I'll answer the question that was asked around on Twitter a little bit. If it wasn't an Arteta signing, it wouldn't make any sense. And I'll tell you why. Because Arteta's head is on the line, right? I think some fans, including maybe my own broadcast partner, Push Bertie, who's certainly in the chat there, so he might not be his biggest fan. And being the old butt of the jokes about what happened at the end of the Premier League season last season, it's his reputation on the line. I don't think we'll be going for a player here that the manager, and that's what he is now. He's actually the manager, not a coach or whatnot. I don't think we'd be going for him otherwise. So obviously, I think Arteta thinks a lot of him. So it's just my thoughts. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the next week or so on that one. And this could be a very busy window for us to compete at the high level that we want to see us doing, like we've had previous years, like way back when we were sort of winning titles in Premier League, etc. We'd need a strong window, and we need a strong response to what happened in the collapse of the Premier League campaign.
So my problem also with Thomas Partey is his availability, right? He has all the ability in the world, but he's never available. He always finds a way to get himself injured. So that's a big problem too. We need players that can stay healthy for a 38-game season and Champions League on top of that. So that's what scares me about getting rid of guys like Partey. Like, you could do at this point, we need to do a rotation. If you look at Man City, the amount of rotating they do within their 11 through 18 with their starting 11, like, that's the level we need to start striving for.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Let me just sort that out. So the other thing that's going on, obviously, you're over there in America at the moment. We've got the Arsenal doing a bit of a tour over to the States in the pre-season. I believe they're playing the MLS All-Stars coming up in July, I think.
Yeah, I'll be at that game.
That'll be fantastic. Where's that being played?
In Washington, D.C. Fantastic. And it's going to be played at the other club I root for, their stadium, DC United. So I've been to about 3 or 5, maybe 5 or 6 DC United games in my life, and this is a newer stadium. It's an MLS stadium, so it seats about 20,000. It'll be a good crowd. There's a potential Messi sighting. We never know if he signed for Inter Miami.
Think that's done, isn't it?
It is done. I just don't know if when he's going to actually debut for them.
It'll be interesting. Are there any other names that you want to sort of single out for us to maybe keep an eye on for that game coming up next month?
There was a guy that on Arsenal side or just the MLS side?
On the MLS side, really, is what I wanted to talk about.
Guy I had to look him up. Ferran Torres was his name. He played for Orlando City, and I know we were linked to him last year.
Ferran Torres came up. Didn't he used to play for Manchester City as well?
Oh, it's possible. Ferran Torres is a Uruguayan footballer, but we were linked to him when we did that friendly game, and it could have been nothing. But he's 23 years old. He's a winger. I don't see. It doesn't say anything about I don't think he's even been to Europe yet.
Okay,
so
just a name that sort of sticks in my brain a little bit. But fair enough. What club's Torres in?
He's in the Orlando City FCs. So we played them in that game last year, I believe, down in Orlando. I didn't go to any of the games last year, and I could have. I think the Everton game was in Baltimore, which would have been doable, but we didn't have anybody to watch our animals that time, so it was kind of like we just didn't go to it. And then the Orlando one was just too far of a drive. We didn't do it, and that's but luckily they're going to be here in America again this year, so we can make up for it. But yeah, that's I don't really follow the MLS like I should. I'm more of on the European side of things. I do watch the games when they come on. I follow the socials for DC United. We are probably going to go up there to a game before the year's over. We just haven't got to it yet.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, fair enough. Well, there's the intro done, I guess. Mm-hmm. I think. Well, we are here today to talk about do a desert island kickabout. I haven't done one of these in a little while, so this will be fun for me. Something a little bit different on the channel, especially over the summer months where there's no live matches. So basically, what's going to happen here? Myself and Spencer are going to talk about this sort of scenario where Spencer's been sort of washed up on this desert island, and there's miraculously a television and a DVD player that presumably operates over solar power. Miraculously, don't know how that happens. Potentially might even have internet, I think, according to other sources. However, what we'll do, we'll go through 3 matches. Doesn't necessarily need to be Arsenal matches. It could be 3 matches of something that you really mean a lot to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be football. Potential spoilers here, everybody. But and then we'll talk about other things as well. Potentially a movie, a piece of music, or an album, and a luxury item right at the end. So, Spencer, would you like to tell me, and everybody watching and everyone who is watching, please make sure you hit the thumbs up. Please make sure you're subscribed. And would you like to tell everybody what your first match is?
So my first one is American football related. So this would be, as Tom Rennie calls it, catch. He calls it catch. So the Clemson. So college football is huge in the United States. Like, there's so much money wrapped into it. It's almost Premier League level money for TV deals, if that makes sense. So like the SEC, for example, their TV deal per school is 70 some $1 million a year. The Big Ten's about 80 some million. So it's getting to that level. But the first one is Clemson versus Alabama, the 2017 national championship game. You see, I'm wearing a Clemson jersey at the moment. What's special about that is, so I'm from that state of South Carolina where Clemson is located, and my dad's family is from Alabama. And so this was a David versus Goliath type match where Alabama they are the perennial college football champion. Well, anyway, so long story short, there's me and my dad were, I don't want to say infighting, but there's a lot of family, just back and forth. It's kind of a good rivalry. Yeah. It was so bad on Sunday mornings that my mom would have to have us stop talking at lunch because we would just start going at each other. But it came down to Clemson and Alabama played in 2016. Bama got the best of them, I think 45-35. Probably should have won that game. In the 2017 matchup, it was 31-28 with 2 minutes left, and Deshaun Watson led Clemson down for a game-winning touchdown with a second left. Wow. And it was the first championship I'd witnessed for Clemson. They won one back in 81. I wasn't alive during then, but that moment sticks out to me. And that's my first one I would watch on loop.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, you talk about them crucial moments. Kind of the comparison between that and perhaps Anfield 89 or perhaps Aguero against QPR. That's quite a similar sort of level, isn't it?
I would go to more Anfield 89 and the Aguero moment for certain. Even I'll go to the Deeney Leicester moment with the promotion. It goes to that walk-off, weren't supposed to be there, didn't get the respect from the media, which I'm assuming Anfield 89, I don't think Arsenal got the same respect from what I've read about, because I was 3 years old at that time, but I've read a lot of the Arsenal history, and so I've tried to get up on stuff. In the 89 team, it seemed like Liverpool was just, they were the team and you weren't going to beat Liverpool. Of course, they had the incident at Hillsborough with Sheffield. I think it's Sheffield Wednesday. I think it's the location. Yep. So there was a lot of, it correlates in that light. So, that would probably be another match I would throw on there too. But I mean, of course, you could see it on DVD now, but I didn't see it live. But I picked live ones. That's what I went for mine. So, but that's my first one: Clemson versus Alabama, 2017 national championship game.
Fair enough. And I believe that is the first college football match that's been mentioned on my series here. So that's something really different. I knew this might happen. So
I love all sports, brother. So I love all sports. So I'm all in. So
fair enough. That's good to say. So let's sort of change it up a little bit. What would you like to talk about next? Would you like to go movie or a piece of music?
So I'm gonna go movie, but I am not a massive movie guy. I'm a TV show guy. So if I was gonna have to pick a TV show to take with me, that's gonna be The Office, the US version with Michael Scott.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
I've seen some of this, so I really like the adaptation of it, actually.
So the UK version is good too. I've seen that as well. So for me, like, it's either that one or Parks and Rec, Ron Swanson. Like that's my favorite character of all time. He's very like limited government guy, just doesn't want to do his job. He's just very lazy. I like the comedy. Like I want to like so a lot of times we'll get home from work and we'll watch The Office but the movie wise, if it was to be a movie, I'd probably pick Office Space. I don't know if you're familiar with that movie. It's guys working in a cubicle and they're miserable, so they try to steal from the company. They get caught. I'll send you a link to the movie. It's really good.
Cool.
But The Office would be the one I would pick probably.
I mean, I like the two versions of The Office. I like Ricky Gervais's adaptation, the original, and some of the deadpan humor of Ricky Gervais. But I do like how it sort of translates into maybe sort of in a different way in the US version. And I'm desperately trying to think of the guy's name. I can even see him. He's the guy that's in Anchorman. I can't remember his name. Can you give me the name, please?
Steve Carroll. Steve Carroll.
That's the fella. That is the fella. He does such a brilliant, funny job of that lead character. It's so funny to watch.
And they're two different styles, though, him and Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais is a little bit serious, but makes jokes and everything. Yeah. Steve Carell is almost kind of like stupid. But the best, I think what sets The Office US version apart is the supporting cast. The supporting cast of The Office in the US it's just second to none. But they're both really good versions. I've seen both, and it's excellent. Yeah, but that would be what I would bring.
No, so it's a good one to have on loop as well. I don't know how many series they did.
9 seasons.
Is that right? Oh my
yes.
God. That's extraordinary.
Everything like season 8 to season 9, people don't watch too much because that's when Steve left the show, and it got super corny after that, like almost unwatchable.
Oh dear.
But that happens to TV shows, right? They outdo their life, and you know
some of the very best TV shows that I see in this country, they don't necessarily have a huge life of series, if you like. Mm-hmm. There's certainly things like I don't know if you're familiar with things like 40 Towers, which is when I was quite young, but John Cleese.
I think I've seen that.
Obviously, it ran 2 series. That sort of humor probably would somewhat frowned upon these days, but something like that doesn't overrun its lifespan, if you understand what I mean. Something that always appears to be quite fresh.
And I think this was on Netflix recently too. So I've seen clips of this. Yeah.
Oh no, it's definitely worth a look. It's something that always makes me laugh and chuckle. So yeah, that's a fun choice. But yeah, the Office American version, definitely top drawer entertainment. Really enjoy that. So do you have a second match to talk about for me?
So I'm going to give an Arsenal one here because my like religious following, I guess, of Arsenal really goes back about 7-8 years. Mm-hmm. So I really like Arsenal, you know, but for me, like growing up, football in general, like I live in the South, so like we played soccer, as we called it, growing up. And a lot of times at recess, I played all the way up through high school, quit about 10th grade year. And then I fell out with the game, if that makes sense. But a lot of my following was MLS related, which we were kind of starting. And it was kind of a joked upon league because the way they did penalty kicks and it was just kind of, but so for my religious following of like not missing an Arsenal match starts about 2017, to be honest with you guys. So for me, a lot of my following of Arsenal is more tied into players like Henry, Ozil, stuff like that. Yeah. So those are my 2 favorite Arsenal players of all time, was Ozil and Henry. But the match I picked was the Arsenal-Tottenham match from about 2018, where we won 4-2, December 2nd, 2018. I could watch. Now, there's a special moment with that because we actually went to a Clemson game the night before in Charlotte, North Carolina. They won the ACC championship, shall we say. It's a conference championship. And on the way home, got home the next day, and we had recorded it. We stayed on quiet, and me and the wife watched it. And it's one of the ones that sticks with me because it's your top rival, you know. Yeah. And Aubameyang had the goal. Torreira, who I loved Lucas Torreira when he came to the club. It's unfortunate it didn't work out, but
got a bit homesick, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, it was very unfortunate because I loved Lucas Torreira. And then I'm trying to remember who else scored in that game. I think Lacazette scored a goal. There was the red card at the end of the game.
I'm sure Torreira scored in that one. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure
that's the one where he took his shirt off and celebrated. But that's the Arsenal match I would put on there for sure. That's the one that sticks to my mind the most because it's just a lot of my memories. Like my dad didn't really watch soccer or football, right? That just wasn't done. Like I had to go make myself fall in love with this game. So I don't have some of the memories that some of your other hosts have been on here. Like Posh probably remember stuff when he was 6 or 7, right? You know, it's just, I don't have that. So for me, and I got back into this game based on coaching my kid. I started coaching her like 6, 7 years old, and then I just fell back in love with the game. So
that's nice. That's really nice. Yeah. But I mean, it's a great way to sort of getting back into to watching the game as well. You don't get any bigger rivalry, as far as I'm concerned, than the North London derby. We've had so many along the years that have been crazy games as well, high-scoring games. This is one that doesn't get talked about very often, you know, because it's almost of the forgotten time, that awkward period between Wenger leaving and the current regime in here, when we're talking about Unai Emery, and I mean, ultimately really didn't work out. It started really well that reign.
20 games unbeaten.
Yeah, that's just off the top of my head, boys and girls. By the way, I got nothing on my pad today, guys. But you know, he had a tremendous start, but for whatever reason, it never felt like that right appointment to me. And there were good things that happened in that Unai's reign. The emergence of some of the youngsters like Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, were certainly a highlight. It certainly, I mean, but then ultimately the slip off from where we were always qualifying for Champions League and all them sort of big competitions, were sort of that massive dip down, much like what happened with Man United and when Alex Ferguson left. I think that was kind of what Unai experienced. What do you think?
I think he was the right coach at the wrong time. You never want to be the guy that follows the man. Like that's, you know, like I mentioned Alabama, they're a powerhouse in college football. They have a coach, Nick Saban. He's won 7 national championships. The next guy, when he retires, the next guy that follows him is going to struggle. So then that's the problem with a lot of teams when you have legends, and Arsene Wenger was a legend for the club and everything that he did, and he won. Whoever followed him was going to have a hard time unless it went perfectly. And that's unfortunate. I think Emery, I mean, I think we were really unfair on him at the time, to be honest. But it did fall off pretty bad at the end there. You know, like if I'm not mistaken, there was that Crystal Palace game where he made all the changes to the lineup and it just fell apart. And we finished 5th, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. We started that season, and then we fired our coach. Everton fired their coach, and we were looking at Ancelotti and picked Arteta, and we made the right decision. Because I think Ancelotti, if he had come to Arsenal, I think he still would have left for Real Madrid, and then we'd have been looking again.
It's a name, Spencer, that comes up quite a lot on the channel. It was Posh Bertie's choice for the manager. That's absolutely for certain. Ancelotti, well-known, proven manager. But when we're talking about Mikel Arteta on the other end of the scale, where he was very much a rookie manager, certainly with an idea of how he wanted to play it, almost like a game plan, if you like. He knew how he wanted to turn the club around. Has his own ideas of how he wants the game to be played. But like you said, the likes of Ancelotti, that sort of coach, he doesn't sort of tend to hang about very often, does he?
Yeah, that's the problem too. A lot of these elite coaches we hear about, like the Antonio Contes, the Mourinhos, they're at a place for a couple years, and then they either A, fail, or B, outstay their welcome.
Yeah.
And that's the other problem, though, with Arteta on the other side. He has played in the club. There is familiar. So sometimes you are too loyal to a person. So there's that happy medium. But I take from American sports perspective, the teams that I have found win are patient with their managers or their coaches. Like Clemson, though, they won 2 national titles with a coach that was he was found. It goes back to 2006. He was found at a church meeting that Tommy Bowden found him there. Tommy Bowden ended up getting fired. They recommended Dabo. Dabo finished the season out, got the job, and he built them into a powerhouse. But they took a gamble on him, so he was a nobody that was basically selling insurance, if I'm not mistaken. And he just So that's why I say with Arteta, like this season is a make or break for him. But I think we made the right decision between the two managers, and I know that's hard saying with Ancelotti, but given what we've gotten out of Arteta so far, I think we made the right move. I don't know if we could have gotten any better.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other point which you kind of made there, which I'll kind of bring up as well, Arsenal don't necessarily have a reputation necessarily very readily. Like if you give an example of a Chelsea, of a Tottenham, say, who quite readily will fire a manager. Big name managers as well, by the way. And then they'll go on, move somewhere else, and then potentially try and rebuild their reputation. In my lifetime following Arsenal, I'm of the George Graham era, who was at the club that long time, and then sort of forgetting the Bruce Rioch mistake, if you like. Arsenal was there for such a long time. It's not a club that has that reputation necessarily of firing their managers. They're looking more of a longer term picture and looking at how they want to sort of build a team gradually and moving up in steps. That's how I feel we are with Arteta at the moment.
And that's the research I've done on the club, because I've gone all the way back to looking back at even the 1886 era, the Woolwich Arsenal and all that stuff. And that's where I'm at with all this. So I've got like 7 years of religiously watching this club, but I've tried to do my best to study from 1886 all the way up till now, just so I'm knowledgeable of what I'm talking about. I don't have the memories that some of these guys have, but I mean, you look even then, there wasn't a lot of change. I mean, Herbert Chapman was at the club for a long time. So like, there's not that hit. Like, I know people always talk about Arsenal being ruthless and operate like a big club. But sometimes, in life, do you make decisions off the whim, off of something that happened to you? No, you don't. You're calculated. You make chess moves. You sit back and you think about stuff. And I think that's the other thing I like about Arsenal, which attracted me to the club, is that it's not overreactionary too.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Always felt like a very family-friendly club, a well-operated machine, if you like, and that's kind of what attracted me to the club as well. So yeah, I get your point on that one, mate. So fair enough. Well, we've got a North London derby in there as well. That's fantastic.
It has to be for me. I mean, that's the one I think about the most. I mean, I think about the FA Cup final game against Chelsea.
That's why my brother chose.
I love that one too. That one goes up there too. The 2-1 victory, which me and Sam discussed something about a certain player who got a happy birthday wish today from the Arsenal Twitter sphere. Aubameyang got himself a happy birthday from the club.
Aubameyang, my goodness.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Oh, that's cool. We'll give your channel a shout out later on. So if you've discussed it on stream, definitely we'll plug that in a little bit. But so shall we go into maybe a piece of music or an album that really sticks in your mind? Music's a massive influence on my life, and certainly especially during a lot of difficult times over the last couple of years, something that really sort of clears my mind a little bit. Is there something that you will go as a go-to piece of music for whatever reason, whether it be driving up and down the country or doing a run around with? Is there something that comes to mind?
So for me, this is like, I don't listen to a lot of music. I know it's going to be a shocker. I'm more of a radio guy, but I do have music that I've listened to in the past. And a lot of the 80s music I love, with that good the synthwave sound to it. Yeah. It's kind of like a cheesy answer. But if I was to go back to like when I was, so I'm 36. So a lot of my impressionable high school music, shall we say, was a little of the emo culture, if that makes sense. More of like the Used, My Chemical Romance, Yellow Card. I don't know if any of these bands mean anything to you, but they were super.
Chemical Romance means a bit. So I know what you're talking about.
So like that would probably be the selection. But the 80s music, I love anything with a good synthwave on it. Nice. And just kind of like just a relaxing, chill music. So, and there's a lot of YouTube channels with synthwave music, and that's just, if I'm looking to relax, I'll listen to stuff like that.
Have you got a particular track that you want to give a shout out to?
No, I really don't. I mean, there's even like a Nemo Dreamscapes is on YouTube. I don't know if you're familiar with it. They just sometimes put a little picture on there, and it could be like the 1940s, and there'll be some music playing in the background. And sometimes when I'm teleworking at home, I just put it on the background and just go to work. I don't really have a specific song though, Lee. I know that's weird.
Right.
I just don't.
That's fine. You've given me a decent era to play with there, and the 80s music. Yeah, that's something that I grew up with quite a lot as well. So, it's one of the period. Funny enough, prefer that sort of time period to listening to an awful lot of the modern stuff now. Quite honestly, and I don't know if it's just me being quite an old-fashioned guy that. I like a proper tune, and that's what you've got quite a lot of that in that sort of era. Proper tunes, proper beats, rather than a lot of noise, if you like. Sorry if I'm sounding really old. Can't help that.
Listen, it's your ears, Lee. You choose what you want to listen to, and don't apologize to anybody for it either.
That's exactly what it's all about. Fair enough. All right then. Well, let's head into our last sporting adventure, shall we? What have you got for me? I hesitate to say it's going to be football because I have no idea what's coming.
So I've got 3, so I'm going to cheat the system here. All right, I'm sorry.
Oh wow, okay.
Please don't block me. So I've been to one Arsenal game before. It was Arsenal Real Madrid in 2019. It was a friendly match in Washington D.C. It was god awful hot. And dare I say, I have an interview with Robbie Lyle on AFTV.
No, fantastic! Oh, that's just getting yourself out there, isn't it?
Yeah. So we actually ran into troops up there. Mo, I ran into him. But yeah, Robbie interviewed me. It was a good time. I probably won't drink again going to a game, but we just had a lot of fun there, and it was yeah, I had a pretty nasty hangover the next day. But there's that game. This is the game where, if you don't remember, Ozil and Kalashnikov had done the bleach hair together, and they were kind of looking like blonde twins together. But I had 2, so I'm stuck between the last year, the Colorado Avalanche. This is ice hockey. They ended up winning the Stanley Cup, and there's a goal in that game, not in the Stanley Cup, but in the run up to the games that sticks to my mind. And it's a 94 feet. Basically, Nathan McKinnon took the puck from behind his own net, maneuvered through 5 St. Louis Blues players and scored a goal to win the series. And it's one of the coolest goals you'll ever see, just from like a hockey perspective. And then the other one is the Denver Broncos, obviously Spencer Bronco and VA 9986. It's one of the 3 Super Bowl victories. The first one that sticks out to me is Denver versus Green Bay in 1998, Super Bowl 32. I was maybe 11 years old at the time. We beat Brett Favre and the Packers. And then the most recent one was 2015, Peyton Manning and the Broncos versus the Carolina Panthers. So it's got to be one of the Broncos Super Bowls for me, because it's definitely, like, obviously the channel name is Bronco and VA. So I'd be foolish. I've covered all 3 bases. I covered my Arsenal game. That's my favorite. Which, looking back at it, the 89 one is probably more of my favorite from what I've watched historically. But the Arsenal 4, Tottenham 2, that game sticks to my mind from what I've seen, as my time as a fan.
I guess quite a lot of it is, 89 was even before the time I was really religiously watching the club.
Yeah.
And if you got something that you've seen live, it was one of them things that really sort of stand out. And that's what makes this quite cool and unique in terms of this series, in fact, that we're bringing up ice hockey, we're bringing up college football, we're bringing up the Super Bowl. We're bringing up everything here tonight. And that's what makes it quite unique. And it's something I really like about this series.
Well, how about
something
this?
That means a lot to my guest.
I'll give you another one. Last year, Leicester Saracens for the rugby championship, Freddie Burns drop kick in the 79th minute. That's another cool moment.
I mean, that's a way to win a rugby game, isn't it, really?
I'm telling you. And I know everybody's not a Saracens fan out there based on the way they skirt the rules, but I don't know how much rugby you follow. So I love rugby. So
funny enough, true story. I watched some of the quarterfinal of I think it was Challenge Cup yesterday. After I finished my shift at my normal day job, I went across the road there, had a little bit of lunch, and I saw my first rugby match in literally ages. So yeah,
Oh, wow.
I don't follow it much, but
I get it.
I kind of know my way around a little bit. So yeah, it's a fun getting talking about last minute winners. Yeah, I get that, and that sort of feeling with Johnny Wilkinson that sort of comes to my brain in terms of it winning the World Cup. Is literally one of them moments that maybe potentially another day someone else might talk about. One of them sort of game-changing, history-making moments. That's the way to win any sort of sporting match.
It is, and those moments they give you chills when you watch them. Like that's why I picked the Clemson Alabama game, because the Hunter Renfrow, when he makes the catch, what it meant to, I got dogged by family. I mean, it's just, and then the Denver versus Green Bay, like there's literally the moment of John Elway running down. He's 36 years old, and he jumps in the air and takes a hit to the back, and he spins like a helicopter.
Wow.
It's just, there's no moments, and even the Arsenal stuff, when I go back and look at the 89, the Michael Thomas goal, and needing 2 goals to win, like that.
Yeah.
And then there's a great movie, Fever Pitch. I'm sure you've seen it now.
I'm very aware of that. Nick Hornby's book.
I think I've watched that movie at least 4 or 5 times, and I love watching. I just think it's just a great movie. But yeah, I think the 89 team is the one that sticks out the most to me from what I've studied of the club. And of course the Invincible team too. I still think, I know a lot of people talk about, I know I'm going sideways here, but to go undefeated in anything is difficult. And it is such a special that I'm telling you right now, in the NFL, the 1972 Miami Dolphins went 17-0. And they'd still talk about the 1972 Dolphins. They'll talk about them this season because it hasn't been done since. So it's special. And for me, my Arsenal fandom also, a lot of the people I grew up with were Liverpool or Man United fans, and I didn't want to be a Liverpool Man United fan. I've always been a contrarian, so I always kind of, where my dad liked, I went against it. So, what a shock! A son being a rebel.
There you go. That's about right.
Yeah.
Do you know one thing that really sticks in my mind with that Invincible side as well? It's something that was so unprecedented in such a high level of sport and high level Premier League kind of thing. I personally don't think that'll ever happen again. I don't, people say how good Manchester City are and all that sort of thing. I'm yet to see them with that golden Premier League trophy. And for Arsene Wenger to go on record and say prior to it happening that he was going to go and they were going to go out and do it, I mean, it's just extraordinary. People thought he was mad, and he showed us something, and that squad showed us something as well, particularly when the wheels looked like they were falling off in terms of cup competitions. I remember very well the Champions League defeat to Chelsea, and then things starting off badly in a game against Liverpool in the Premier League. And Thierry Henry said, "I've had enough of this. Going to take this game by the scruff of the neck and score a hat-trick in that game against Liverpool." Is that a Highbury, possibly? And then, for us to pull that off, again, it's something that I don't think will ever be seen again, and never to be forgotten either.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's so difficult. It's elite sport, right? It's so difficult to be perfect because you're just off one day, and your opponent is, especially the way the league is now. I think, in my opinion, the league is difficult. It's one of the most difficult leagues in the world. Where look, Arsenal drew to the 20th place team twice. You can't win a championship when you do that, but that's the kind of the margins, just takes one bad day, VAR going against you, or not to bring VAR up, but it's such a
the Brentford game that rings true with that one, doesn't it?
For sure. And and that's the thing too. Like when you go back and you study that Invincible team, and it's just special. Winning a double, winning the Man United's treble team. I think Del Boy Gunner was trying to compare the two, and I have a hard time comparing the Man City treble team to the Man United treble team because I believe the era of football is different. It was a lot more physical game in the 90s. Like, these guys just fall down. But I also think the athlete is more elite now too. These guys are on higher regimens of diets, and so it's so hard to compare the two. But
game's a lot faster in it as well now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, so it's really hard to compare the two.
Yeah.
But
But extraordinary achievements from both. And if you're looking back at United winning it, coming back from behind in '99 was the Champions League final. I'm talking about is special in its own right. But yeah, I mean, as much as we're going to hate it, especially as Arsenal fans, yet you do have to credit the City side for doing what they did, what they've managed to achieve, and how they managed to do it is extraordinary. There's a lot of work for other teams, not just Arsenal, but everybody else, to try and catch up with that squad. That's what we'll be looking for in this transfer window, mate, is to try and get into that level.
Yeah, it's the task. And I think the thing that's going to change now, I really want to laugh at Liverpool for a moment, because Liverpool.
Sorry, any Liverpool fans.
I know so many Liverpool fans, and I see them at the gym, and I mean, the guys are pretty nice to me, right? But at the same time, like, I just feel I view them as an entitled fan base. That's what I've always viewed them as. They feel like the world's against them. They're entitled. I just do not like Liverpool. So I'm just going to go there with that. But they thought they were going to get Jude Bellingham. And Jude Bellingham was like, yeah, that's nice. I'm going over here to go play at Real Madrid. So
he's going to do great over there as well. I've got to say, Bellingham's going to do extraordinarily well. I'm sure
he's such a good player too. Like it's like it's not even fun. Like you got to think they got Camavinga in that midfield. They've got Bellingham in there. I mean, yeah, they're going to be set up pretty well. And then also you wonder who the striker might be. Is Harry Kane leave?
Could happen. I think there could be a lot of moves in big players after the games out this week. Keep your eyes peeled, everybody, because it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks.
Well, that's the other thing I tell the Arsenal fans: relax right now, breathe. We haven't exactly lost out on Declan Rice again. I mean, we're not at that point. I get the low bid and all that stuff, but just breathe. It's okay. It'll work itself out.
Yeah. Do you know, I think a lot of it, and some of it comes out here on YouTube a little bit as well, is that because of the feeling that the league was there of the taking, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. It's a frustration, and unfortunately, that frustration builds in terms of it was so close, and so close for the first time in literally years, and that's what I think the patience of some of the fan base might be tested. I think is probably what's happened, and that's where something will happen, and something not necessarily even confirmed has happened. And because we're in an age where it's so very easy to hit Twitter up and throw a tweet out, a reactionary tweet, if you like.
It's funny because like this is the only sport I see the rumors like this in, to be honest with you. Like I do not see the NFL doesn't have the same rumor mill. The NBA is but it's a silly season. Like that's a player-driven league. But a lot of the other sports over here, we don't really get the same. I call it fake rumors. I feel it's like people put stuff out there for clout so they can get followers. So, it is what it is. But it's really been the one thing that I think after 7 or 8 years really following this, I just ignore 90% of the stuff I hear now. Until I see a shirt being held up by a player, it doesn't mean anything. Or if Fabrizio says something, that's usually pretty.
It gives here we go, and then it's a good chance it's going to happen, isn't it? So
him and Orange
big hello to Arsenal Forever, by the way, who's just joined us in the chat. It's always nice to see you here. So thank you for joining us. So I think to conclude our little bit of a trip to the island, we've got one other thing to talk about. And that'll be your luxury item of choice. It can be anything you decide it to be. It doesn't matter practicality if you need to plug it in or not. It doesn't mean if you don't worry about internet if you need that, because I'm sure that's there too. What are your thoughts, mate? What would you like to go for?
A boat to get off the island. No, I'm just kidding.
Great answer.
So yeah, I mean that would be right. It's like the genie that shows up and he's like, "What are your wishes? I'll take more wishes." It doesn't work like that. I'm probably gonna bring the PlayStation 5.
Nice.
Probably gonna play video games. I can do push-ups and sit-ups while I'm there and keep myself mentally ready. But I probably have to play video games, to be honest with you. Like that's when I was in Bahrain in 2021, like I played more video games then than I did any time in my life because my working hours weren't that bad. I was like maybe 8 to 4. There was a time frame in August, September that we were super busy. World events will tell you what that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then yeah, that's a different time frame too.
Yeah,
but
okay.
but yeah, I played a lot of FIFA during that time, and I play a lot of video games. Like I play college football and all that stuff on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 5. I play FIFA. I play Train Sim, NASCAR. I have a racing wheel. I that would be what I'd probably bring, the luxury on the PS5, because I could kill some time.
That's fair enough. Now, I haven't owned a console like that for what? Got to be about 11 years or something.
Yeah.
When the Nintendo Wii came out, that's the last of the console I played with. But do you? So you play quite a bit of FIFA? Do you go into the Ultimate Team and all that sort of thing?
No, I can't get into that stuff. I'll do career mode or something like that.
Yeah.
The FIFA 23 really cool because they have the women's game in there, and it's not really something I get into. I mean, I thought
I'm very interested in, obviously.
So yeah, and you guys are very, very much so. And I know like Paramount Plus is a streaming channel we have over here, and a lot of the I guess it's WSL is on there. I figured my daughter would get into it, but she's 15 and likes boys, so she doesn't care about sports unless it's to hang out with dad. So,
fair enough.
But no, the FIFA, like I know when I bought my PS5, like I paid probably $100 more than I should have, and I found it in this random shop in Bahrain, which my buddy was like, "Hey, trust me, we'll go here," and whatever, it worked, and we got it. So
got you hooked.
Yeah, I mean, I it's kind of like me and jerseys, man. Like I didn't buy a lot of them when I was a kid, and now I can afford a couple of them, and it's fun. And I'm that guy that unfortunately will buy the club strip. I just do, and it is what it is. But yeah, that'd probably be the PS5. The Office is going to be my TV show. That'd be pretty good. I could have a good weekend. I might get bored after a while, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, as I say, so it'll certainly win away the hours, won't it? It'll certainly keep you occupied. So that's what it's all about. It's all about, this channel's all about having a bit of fun with the whole thing as well. So I'll tell you what, Spencer, I've really enjoyed our little chat this afternoon, my friend. It's been really good. It's first one of these I have done in ages, so I'm really pleased to get you on here. Really appreciate your time coming on the channel as well. So before we say goodbye to everybody, would you like to give your channel a bit of a shout out and where they can find you, please?
All right, so it's Spencer Bronco in VA. I think I got like 47 subscribers. I kind of don't really know what I'm doing with the channel. Like I really I started doing like some of the Arsenal stuff, which I think really, getting up with you, Sam, and guys like that, that's probably what I'll do. But I'm actually going to focus more on maybe a little more NFL and college football side from my side, and do the Arsenal stuff. Heck, I might even just live stream a video game one time just to do it and show how bad I am sometimes.
The way to do it.
I'm on Instagram. It's Arsenal9986. I'm just here to have fun, man. And I'm not trying to make money. I'm just out here. I'll talk to anybody about Arsenal. It's fun. And like I said, I'm still trying to learn a lot of the history of the club, and it's really, it's been fun doing it, because I feel like if you're going to be a fan of a team, you need to know where they came from and what they stand for and where they are.
My favorite saying, mate. I love that.
It is. But it's a good saying for everything, right? Remember who you are and what you represent.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like, think twice before you do something. Is this going to bring shame on me? And it's those good life lessons. And I think that was Rocky Rockcastle that said that, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. One of my absolute heroes, my friend. One of that period of time we spoke about 89 a bit ago. I could still see Rocky running rings around people now, mate. I mean, it might be just slightly after, before I started watching, but looking back, seeing how good Rocky was, that pure talent, it was just incredible. So yeah, that's a fantastic way to end us today.
Yeah, for sure.
So let me just pop that on the screen. So if everyone wants to follow what we're doing here on Gooner Gathering, you can find us at Gooner Gathering on Twitter. You can find me personally at Gooner Lee Meads as well. You have my other colleagues there as well. I am actually meeting Posh Bertie in person, in the flesh, tomorrow for the very first time about this time. So about 5 o'clock UK time. So whether we'll do anything on the channel or not, or we'll certainly have a
special occasion.
Oh, I can't wait. He's living up to his gimmick and he's going to watch the cricket. So he's going to take the cricket in, have a few pims, and have a fantastic.
Are you guys going to the Ashes? Is that
it's not the Ashes. It's he's watching Essex versus. Oh goodness me! It's come out of my head. I forgot what it is now. Is it?
It's not the 100, is it? Because the 100.
Somerset. It's Essex versus Somerset. That's what it is. In the and literally, it's about half a mile away from my my normal workplace. It's literally just up the main road. So,
if you mind me asking, how many overs do they do in that? Is that a T20 or is that?
I think it's a T20 match. I think.
Okay.
But
right.
I'll leave
a little
the cricket
too.
to Posh because he knows what he's talking about, and I really don't. But so yeah, we'll keep an eye on our social media channels. We'll keep the stuff coming on over the summer. Again, thank you to Spencer for joining me this evening. This has been a really fun little chat, and this is where we'll end it. So thanks for joining us. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And Spencer, do you want to say something else?
Yeah, if you live in the U.S., a happy Father's Day to you. It's Father's Day over here in the U.S.
Indeed, Father's Day here too.
Yep, I didn't know. So yeah, happy Father's Day to you, Lee.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Happy Father's Day to everyone who's watching us. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers, everyone.